I think there will be a short-term pump. I honestly don't think it will be this massive sort of non-stop trip to the moon that some people are predicting. The market will certainly pump as a result. Mostly, I would imagine, Bitcoin. Alts may follow, but I think most of the excitement will be around.
Bitcoin ETFs are finally on the horizon, and the crypto community is buzzing with excitement. But will the approval of Bitcoin ETFs send Bitcoin prices to the moon? Or will it be a short-lived pump? In this video, Coinbureau gives you an honest opinion on what to expect. They also share some tips on how to invest in Bitcoin ETFs safely and responsibly.
I think there will be a short-term pump. I honestly don't think it will be this massive sort of non-stop trip to the moon that some people are predicting. The market will certainly pump as a result. Mostly, I would imagine, Bitcoin. Alts may follow, but I think most of the excitement will be around Bitcoin. And someone pointed out in a question on a live stream I did yesterday, well, if these ETFs are approved, the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity, etc., whoever it is, are going to buy BTC over the counter. They're not going to go onto Coinbase with the rest of us plebs, are they? So you're not going to see this huge buying frenzy that drives prices constantly up. I think that's absolutely correct. But I still think there will be interest from retail, and quite possibly interest from retail. I think we've talked before about these retail traders, maybe who are invested in more traditional assets, stocks, bonds, etc., but who are aware of the idea of being Bitcoin as a hedge. I think that could be a moment for many of them perhaps to dip their toes into the market, to go, here we are, here's a safe way of investing in Bitcoin. Here's a way of investing in Bitcoin that I understand. I don't need to download an exchange. I don't need a wallet. I just go and buy it through my broker like I do all my other ETFs and stocks and whatever. Will that be enough to send Bitcoin absolutely parabolic? I don't think so, but certainly it'll be a pump, but probably fairly short-lived, and then I imagine we'll settle at a level a little bit higher than we are now. Maybe sort of around the 30k level or a bit higher. But it won't be absolute chaos. It won't be all hands on deck, so to speak. The thing that really bugs me about this is, okay, the SEC doesn't want to approve these ETFs. Why? I can't understand why the SEC shouldn't be compelled to explain why it's not doing so. What its big problem with these things is. That strikes me as crazy. Now I know they've kind of, like Rob was saying, that they've got a problem with Coinbase, and crypto, the custody of the Bitcoin, backing these ETFs, I think has been flagged as an issue before. They've also talked about market manipulation, supposedly a big problem for the SEC with approving these ETFs. The thing is that they've approved futures ETFs. Like I said earlier, ETH futures ETFs are supposedly going live next week. Bitcoin futures have been around since 2017. Futures markets are much, much easier to manipulate than spot markets because there's more moving parts. Spot instruments are not nearly as difficult to manipulate. So for me, that this market manipulation idea just does not make any sense, and I think it's crazy that the SEC shouldn't be compelled to explain its reasoning on this. In terms of other reasons why they haven't approved it yet, and what I think will probably happen, I think one of the reasons they haven't approved it is because they don't have to. They can kick the can down the road for most of these until I think it's March next year. And so that is exactly what they will do because they can. The SEC has a problem with the industry as a whole, so it will make things as difficult as possible. So that means they can delay, and I'm pretty sure that they will delay on all of these applications for as long as they possibly can. Another thing that has been flagged up as well is this potential government shutdown that is supposedly getting close now in the US. Now, as I understand it, if this does go ahead, and this is a row over sort of government spending, as I think so, if this shutdown does go ahead, that is going to mean huge numbers of federal workers are put on furlough. I believe the SEC is due to have 90% of its staff furloughed in the event of a government shutdown. So they're going to have to run with a 10% skeleton crew, which is absolutely great news if you ask me. But what I think it does mean is that they will, that is probably a pretty good excuse for delaying, because they're basically just going to be trying to keep the lights on there. So that could be another reason for the delay. I think that's I've seen that cited as a possible reason for the most recent delay. So yeah, and I think for those reasons, we will probably be waiting until the last possible moment. I do think they will be eventually approved, but at the last possible thing. The mega banks, I think, the JP Morgans, the Bank of Americas, the Goldman Sachs, etc., are much more hesitant. They don't want to see inflows into crypto because crypto is much more of a challenge to them. Gary, I think, is on the side of the mega banks and therefore will delay. So yeah, my guess is early next year at the latest possible opportunity.
Okay, we have the S&P 500 dropping. Crypto is not dropping, right? Not just yet, but oftentimes it moves more discreetly, where it'll just sort of hold where it is and then move to where it's going to go very, very quickly. But we have the S&P dropping. We have oil going up. We have the dollar going up. We have bonds dropping, right? Like TLT has been plummeting, and that was a lot of people sort of their hedge, right? Their safety trade. But a lot of times the bond market doesn't bottom until we're close to a Fed pivot. So I guess my question is, should the market? Do you think the market should be more preparing for a pivot by the Fed right now, or do you think they should be preparing for higher for longer? Because there's a lot of polarizing opinions out there as to what's really going on.
Yeah, good question. I am inclined to take Jerome as his word. Jerome Powell has been pretty consistent with this higher for longer narrative. I remember that was a big feature of what he said at Jackson Hole last month. The Fed itself is still pretty hawkish, and Jerome is as well. And look, before we can start talking about a pivot, we need to have a definitive pause, and we don't yet have that. I mean, they didn't raise rates at the last meeting. I think the FedWatch tool is sort of around 75-80% that they will not raise rates at the next meeting. But remember, there is one more rate hike projected before the end of this year, which means they either do it at the next meeting on the 1st of November, or they do it at the December meeting. So although we're getting close to the pause, they haven't officially paused yet. So that's something that I think we definitely need to see before any talk of an actual pivot.